Episode number 163 with Carlos Welch. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. I am here this week with a man that needs no introduction, Carlos Welch. Thanks for coming on, Carlos.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Glad to be here as always.
Right on. Good. And so where in the world are you?
I'm currently in Las Vegas.
Oh, you're in Vegas. How long have you been there?
Like 16 hours or something.
Okay, I missed you then.
Yeah, I just left from Mike's place yesterday and came to Vegas to hang out with my buddy Briar.
Briar. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just came from Vegas. I finished up a bachelor party up in Reno for my brother. He's getting married in a couple of months. And did a bunch of sports betting and stuff. Went down to Vegas, and I was out there for the last... I just got home last night, and I was there, I think, 5 or 6 days, something like that. It was a lot of fun. I did your tournament at the Wynn quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's a great one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, this is a pretty happening place to be around this time of year for the March Madness.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything is crazy right now.
Yeah. I sat down at a cash game after I busted the Win 140, and it was a new table. I cruised the other tables, and I already told the guys behind the counter, which table I wanted. They're all, okay, a new one opened up, so I went and sat down there. And right after I saw who was sitting down, I went back and told them, never mind, I'll just stay where I'm at before I even played a hand. Because there was 3 guys with it was just like in the scene Rounders. There's 3 guys with like the... that are still wearing their badges from the conference that they're at.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it was great. It was such a good game.
Yeah.
And,
this was at the Wynn?
This was at the Wynn, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's some conference going on leading up to that weekend, and it was leading up to this weekend. It was perfect. Yeah. I ended up getting a set of 5s against one guy. And I filled up on the turn, and we got it all in. And one guy had 3 kings, the other guy had a flush, and I had a boat. It was nice.
Yeah.
But right on, cool. So how long are you going to be in Vegas for?
Probably, I'll be in Vegas maybe 2 or 3 days, and then I'm going to head back down to Laughlin just to go to my storage unit, and I'll actually be down there probably about 3 days also. And then I'm going to head up. Let me pull up my calendar here just to see the exact dates. I'm going to stop in. I'm driving to Portland next weekend. But I'm going to try to plan it to where I can stop in for Run It Up Reno, Jason Somerville's event, at least that last day. I think the main event for Running Up Reno is on the 30th, so I kind of just want to poke my head in there, and then maybe I'll play that event.
What's the buy-in?
I can't remember. It's under 1,000 though, like maybe 500, something like that. And then afterwards, I will head up to Portland.
Cool.
Yep.
That'll be fun. Oh, I met up with Andrew Pieper while I was out in Vegas.
Cool.
So shout out to Andrew. We had tacos. It was good.
Nice.
Talked a little bit of poker. That was fun. Brought mom. That's cool. And then what's over in Portland?
My job. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right. So I've been putting this off for several months now. Yeah. I got the job a while back, but so. For those who may not know, I got the job substitute teaching in Portland, and I told myself, if I ever start running bad in poker, I can always go up there for a couple of days sub, build up a little bit of a war chest, and then get back to the poker grind. And
Yeah.
fortunately for me, that hasn't happened. I've been running well enough in poker during since I've gotten a job that I haven't had to work. But now it's getting to the point where I at least need to show up for a couple of days just so they don't like fire me. So I have to work at least. I can never remember the number, but it's between 15. It's either 15 or 20 days. I have to sub during the school year in order to be eligible to sub the next school year.
Okay. To maintain your status or whatever.
Right. So I'm basically just going to lock that up, and I'll work like 20 days, and then I'll head back down here.
Cool. Right on. That'll be fun. That'll give you a little nest egg, and you can probably just study as soon as you're done poker, or even play that night.
Right. My plan is it's 20 days, but you can either do 20 full days or you can do 40 half days. I may just do the half day. Well, actually, if that's the case, if it's 20, I don't know if I'll have enough days left in the school year to do half days. But if it's only 15, I will. And that's ideal for me. I can just like sleep until like 10 or whatever and roll out of bed, go sub from like, 11 to 3, come home, grind online, and just do the same thing again the next day.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
Cool. Well, I hope it works out.
Yeah, me too. I try to put it off for as long as possible to try to avoid the rainy season up there. It's pretty bad. I will say 10 months out of the year. Unfortunately, the best months are the summer, but I'll be in Vegas during that time. So I figure end of April and May will be my best bet.
Okay. Do you have warm clothes? Reno a week ago was snowing. It was pretty damn cold.
I do not. My entire wardrobe consists of basketball shorts and T-shirts.
That's what I thought, because I've never seen you in anything else.
Right. So I'll probably have to buy something for Reno, but when I start subbing, I'm going to have to start going back to long pants and a decent shirt again anyway. So I'll probably stock up on some clothes before I get to Reno. I'll put that on the list for the last couple of days in the Vegas area.
Yeah. Hit up a cheap thrift store, I don't know, one of those warehouses or whatever. And yeah, because it was cold. It was cold. I was thoroughly unprepared. I brought swimming trunks and stuff, thinking that no, I was totally off. I was totally off. Hey, I was reading on your poker news. Your article is about your New Year's resolutions for this year, and you were talking about you want to study a lot more and play a lot less. I was just wondering how your goals have been going. If you've been sticking to that, what's that's been like?
Yeah, it's been easier for me because I've kind of moved up in stakes a little bit, and I don't play the $10 and $20 tournaments as often as I used to. So I'm mostly playing like 50s, 109s, 200, stuff like that now. And if that's all I'm playing, then that automatically is going to limit the number of games available to me. So the playing less is definitely happening. And I'm starting to get into the studying more part for sure. The last 2 weeks with Mike, he and I have been kind of hitting the books pretty hard.
Good. Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. You mentioned making automatic decisions in hands. Like, how did you word it? You said like you want to make those in-game decisions when you have cards and you know you're going to play automatic and as quickly as possible. That way you can kind of pay attention when you're not playing at the tables to what Mike calls game flow. And you mentioned in your article that, the last 10 to 20 hands leading up to the hand that you're analyzing are just as important as the hand itself.
Yes. Okay, was there a question? Was there a question in there?
I just wanted to... My bad. I just wanted you to explain that a little bit, expand on it.
So yeah, one example that comes to mind for me is bet sizing. Like now, pre-flop is pretty much depending on what my I don't know. Like I have different gears when I play. Depending on
Hmm.
which gear I'm in, I'm gonna basically if I'm still in a bunch of pots, then I'm probably going to be min raising a lot. But then if I'm playing a more solid range, I'm probably going to be 3xing. And so
Okay.
depending on which of those two things I want to do based on what the table's giving me, that's going to basically determine my pre-flop sizing. So I don't have to think about that. And then c-bet sizing, basically I'm going like a third pot on dry flops and half on the wetter flops. And so I
Yeah.
really don't have to think much um, about bet sizings, even just the decision to c bet. Like I'm c betting almost never in like multi-way pots from out of position, especially on wet flops. I'm check giving up a ton. So my pre-flop and flop decisions are pretty much automatic now. I can just even without a ton of regards to how my villains are playing, I can just like take a snapshot of a flop decision and know what I'm going to do instantly. And
Yeah.
where I run into trouble is turn and river decisions. And so I'll try to, use more of my mental energy to navigate those spots. And the other thing you mentioned was the game flow. And
Yeah.
that's something that comes from me playing less tables. I'm able to kind of like watch the hands I'm not in and see what's happened over, like you said, the past 10 or 20 hands at the table. It's easier live when you're one tabling, but even online, you can kind of tell if a guy's likely tilting or something. Like maybe he just lost a big pot. Like
Yeah.
it's obvious when somebody's down to like two or three bigs, but sometimes there's a guy who has like 80 bigs and he lose like 60 of them. And anybody that's actually trying to win the tournament is going to be cautious with that last 20, but that guy may be the type that's just like, okay, if I had 60 and now I'm down to 20, like I'm short now. I don't want to be in the tournament anymore. And they just like open shove 20 bigs with garbage or something. So being
Yes.
able to pick up on those nuances where things that you can't see if you haven't been paying attention to the last couple of hands, I think that stuff is becoming more and more important for me.
Yeah. I've been experimenting. I normally keep my normal grind is 4 tables and having a buy-in of around $100 on the table at all times.
Mhm.
Um, and I started experimenting with just playing like one tournament that's worth about $100. So maybe they got an 88 or a 109 going or whatever, and just focusing on that one. And it's pretty cool. If you can get past the fact that you're not making a decision every 1.5 seconds and just focus completely on the game, you can really pick up some nuances, and it's like you're at a live table.
Right. And when it's time to make decisions, you'll make
Yes.
better decisions because
Yes.
it's a game of information. You'll have
Yeah.
more information. I mean, that's what I tell people all the time is like playing hands is almost like the afterthought. Really, what your job is as a poker player is to gather the information to basically guide how you should be playing those hands. And if you are doing a good job of gathering that information, that kind of makes your decisions automatic. But if you're missing that information, now you're kind of, a little bit lost and trying to come up with the stuff on the fly once you finally get in a hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. The live version of this would be on your phone or watching the
Yes.
TV or doing anything but watching the action at the table. I've been practicing with this. I'm prepping for live at the WSOP this year, and so I did this little trip. This last 5 days was all live. It was awesome, And but one way I'm prepping for it is I'm playing on this site I keep talking about, the 6-4 Spades. Every Sunday they've got a tournament that it's a $40 buy-in, but there's add-ons and rebuys and everything. So I did the math once on the total number of players and what the prize pool was. And the average buy-in comes out to like $93 most of the time. You know, it's around 100. So it's a great tournament.
Right.
And there's no HUDs, so you got to take notes on each of the guys. And I like not multi-tabling too much for like that specific tournament, because it's always all the same players, and there's always a chat going, and you can keep track of like who's really. I know that this guy always just wants to make the money, so he's never a threat on the bubble. He's not going to do anything unless he's got Queens Plus. You know what I mean? You can really, really focus in. It's that's fun. That's fun. I love that site.
Right.
But let's see. What was? I wanted to ask you about your routine. How do you get a routine bouncing around so much? Like, what's the average day in the life of Carlos? Time you get up and time you go to sleep, and study time, play time, like that.
There's no such thing as an average for me. I will say that when I'm alone, I usually get up maybe around like 9 a.m. or something, and I'll just review hands from the night before, or just go over my hand histories from the night before, and maybe watch a video or something, probably do some writing, and depending on how much streaming I've done that month, I may do streams during the afternoon hours, which I'll be doing next week because haven't done any so far this month. And I guess for me, most of my time is I pretty much start grinding every night around 5 p.m. And before that, it's going to be more lax during the daytime hours if it's the beginning of the month and I don't have like pressing deadlines. But I'm a procrastinator, so like last 2 weeks of the month, I'm usually doing my articles to meet deadlines, and also streaming. So that's when I'm alone. But if I'm hanging with Mike, or like right now I'm with Briar, I basically just do whatever they want to do. And so there's a decent amount of my time that is like that. And so that's why I say I really don't have an average day, because like lately, since before Thanksgiving, I haven't really spent a ton of time alone since whatever was that, like 5 months ago. So for the last 5 months of my schedule has been all over the place.
You pretty much wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, Carlos, what do you want to do today?" Whatever the answer is, you do that.
No, that's what I do when I'm alone, but I haven't been alone for 5 months. So like Thanksgiving, of course, I went home for family. And when I came back, I left in January right after Christmas, and my niece was with me. So my niece hung out with me from like January to the middle of February. And then when she left, I stayed at Mike's for a couple of weeks.
To Mike's.
And now I'm with Briar. And so starting next week, I'll finally be alone again, but then I'll be subbing for a decent part of every day. So that also doesn't fit into my 100% alone time where I would be doing those things I just mentioned. And then after that, it'll be the summer, in Vegas. So, man, it may be August.
I can't wait.
It may be August before I, get some
Carlos time.
Exactly. Yeah. I kind of miss me. Yeah.
We miss you too, Carlos. That's why it's always good having you on.
Yeah.
Always get thumbs up on your episodes. I wanted to, I'm going to tease this one. We're going to take a quick break, but I want to talk about your tournament that you played where you didn't look at your cards.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Tired of playing great poker for 8 hours and then tilting it all away on one hand? Elliot Roe. I will not play a hand of poker unless I listen to that man's voice first. Meditation tapes just before you play. Get in the right mindset so you can focus on poker. Listen to an MP3 before you play. You put it right on your phone, your computer, your tablet. He has MP3s for everything. Live cash, online MTTs, post-game cooldown, the Mindset Booster package, which comes with 5 MP3s, confidence, motivation, recovery, volume, study booster, the simple volume system. Try it for free. There's no obligation. Listen to his 7-minute tilt buster. It's free from me to you. This is the next step in poker, the Mindset Advantage by Elliot Roe. Use the code HUPOKER, score yourself a discount. All the links are in the show notes. Elliot Roe. Okay, Carlos, so tell us about this tournament that you played where you didn't look at your cards.
Okay. Yeah, so just the tournament I played with no cards. Actually, this was an idea that Drunk KB and a couple of other guys in Cherokee came up with.
Oh,
They
perfect.
were all, yeah, there was like me, and I can't remember who these other guys were. Maybe it was like Lappy Poker. I don't know if the listeners know him. He's one of the guys that streams. And a few other guys were hanging with us in Cherokee, and they were all drinking. It was like, hey, let's reg the nightly tonight and just play without looking at our cards. And like everybody agreed, oh, that would be really fun. They all backed out. None of them wanted to do it. I guess they had hangovers or something, and
they didn't want to give themselves any disadvantage.
right, because I don't drink. I was the only one. I was like, you know what? That does sound like fun. I'm going to do it even if nobody else does it. Mm-hmm. So I did. This is a $125 buy-in nightly.
Live tournament.
Yes, at a WSOP circuit event in Cherokee, North Carolina. And yeah, you just start with 4K in chips at the 2550 level. And I decided that I would play without looking at my cards. My only rules were I would look at my cards if I was facing an all-in bet. That's the only time I would look. But I would pretend to look, so the people I was playing against had no idea I wasn't looking.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I read about when Annette Oberstadt did this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I used to play with her on UB. I was not a winning player at the time, but I read about her doing that. And she actually won the tournament, right? It was like a 180-man sit and go or something?
Yeah, this was a $4 180-man sit and go on UB. And I want to say because it was online, she just like put a sticky note over her cards or something.
She said she put a sticky note over the screen on her computer.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this one was a little bit different because this field had like over 400 people in it, and it was $125. So, and live, that also plays into it also. But man, it was a lot of fun.
I want to do that. That sounds like a blast.
I basically did it to kind of see what changes I would need to make in my game to like be competitive without looking at my cards. And the first thing I realized is that I can't play any hands from early position. Like that's out.
Yeah.
Because this is a small stakes tournament, and if you've ever played one of those, whenever you open from early position, you get minimum 4 callers between you and the button.
Yeah.
And that's not a time where you want to have no idea what cards you have.
What 2 cards you have.
Right. And so I figured
because everyone else is not aware that you're not actually you don't hold cards. You have 2 napkins.
Yeah. And so since I figure I'm probably only supposed to be playing like maybe 10% of hands from here anyway, I'm just going to fold everything. So I basically fold 100% of my hands from probably like MP to under the gun. And really the only time I got involved was when somebody else acted before me. Or if it folded around, now this came up more so in the later stages. If it folded around to me in late position, I would shove with somewhere between like 15 or 20 bigs or something. Again, without looking at my cards. But when I was around like 30 or 40 bigs, I would just basically attack limpers.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
didn't really need to know my cards to know that this guy limped, so he's probably weak. He's limping with the intention of calling a bet. Calling a raise. So I can expect him to like see the flop. He's got like some hand he's trying to hit a flop with. So he has to see the flop, and he's probably going to miss the flop he's looking to hit 70, 80% of the time. And then at that point, I can just take it down with a C bet. So that's basically what my plan was throughout this tournament.
Okay. Okay. And what were some of the like main lessons that you really got from this that just made it a blast and well worth?
The main thing was the being tight from early position,
Yeah.
and the attacking the limpers, and also kind of similar to what we just discussed. When you don't have your cards to look at, you become more keenly aware of the information around you, and so I had to basically, between hands where I was folding, see what type of hands these guys were limping. So like there's certain guys that like to limp suited aces under the gun. There's some guys who only do it with small pairs. There's some guys who do it with like offsuit Broadway hands. And you can kind of get an idea of like what type of hands a guy likes to limp. And when you have the information, now you can be a little bit more precise with your C bets, like which boards you choose to bet on. If I see a guy limp like Broadway hands, then I know I can fire away on the 8-high board. If I see that same guy limp 8-7 suited, then I know I can fire away on the Broadway boards, because they generally aren't limping this. They generally aren't limping their entire range. And they're not like balancing their limping range, like, oh, let me throw some Broadway hands in here and some suited connectors in here and some ace high hands in here so I have board coverage. They don't think that way. They think I have a $2 hand, not a $6 hand. And so their $2 hands are generally like one category of hands that is completely unbalanced. So yeah, just identifying, looking at the hands I'm not in to identify what type of limping ranges, what type of hands these guys put in their limping ranges, and then taking advantage of that when it's time to attack them. So playing tight from early position, paying attention to the hands I'm not in, and also just shoving wide from late position. That's something that we all pretty much know from looking at these charts. You got 10 to 15 bigs on the button. The shoving range is pretty wide, but if you also use snap shove and you see what type of hands they're supposed to be calling with, you know that they're not calling enough, which means you can shove even wider. And I just took that to the extreme of shoving it. Anytime it folded around to me on the button, I would shove. So that 100% range actually isn't that far off when these guys are like, you shove 10 bigs and the guy's in the big blind with like ace 10 offsuit and he folds because he's flipping at best in his mind.
Yes. Or you have a better ace. You have to have a better ace.
Right. So against those guys, like, just shove wide from late positions, especially if you don't know your hand. But even when you go back to playing your normal game, you should realize how often you should be shoving from late position. If you're sticking to the Nash ranges, you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
I thoroughly agree, especially live. Online too, but especially live. It amazes me every time when I go from online to live. I mean, it hasn't changed, so I don't know why I keep getting surprised. But I have fold equity with like 5 to 7 big blinds. Like, Okay. I'll
You
take
know what?
that.
I played a tournament today at the Bellagio, just a little small daily, and I shoved 5 bigs from the button with kings, and there was a guy in the big blind who had maybe like 15, 20 bigs with pocket threes, and he folded because
Wow.
he said that you know, he's flipping at best. And I'm thinking like, damn, the one time I don't want you to fold that hand because I got kings. Like
Yeah.
if I had 10 bigs, I would min raise because I know how these guys think. But I think it would have been a little too fishy to min raise off of 5 bigs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went ahead and
Yeah.
shoved that one. I'm thinking like, damn, I can't get these guys to call me. But the good news is I can shove any 2 cards on this guy later.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If he's folding threes there too.
Yep. Face up too. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Was that what was the buy-in at the Bellagio? I played one at the Bellagio. It had like 15 people. I ended up winning it. It was
Yeah,
was it the
it's probably the same one. It was like $130 buy-in, and
yeah.
today it had 18 people.
Oh, okay. So first was like 11, 1,200, something like that.
Yeah, it was like 980 or something like that today. I guess there wasn't a ton of re-entries.
Okay.
And the rake is pretty high on these small buy-in tournaments too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That one I think the rake was 25 or 30, and then but the one at the Wynn, man, $140 buy-in, $15 rake. I think they said the staff takes like 2 or 3% or something, so that might bring it up to I don't know,
Yeah,
$18 or $19. But
by far,
yeah,
the Wynn is the best place to play. I did Bellagio because, like I said, I'm hanging with my buddy Breyer, and he's a cash game player. And so he was playing cash at the Bellagio. So I was just basically doing it to hang out with him. And also, the Wynn has a really good structure. And I needed this tournament at the Bellagio where the structure was horrible so that it would be over by the time it was time to record the podcast. Had I
okay,
played had I played at the Wynn, I'd still be there. Like they're probably not even in the money yet, and that tournament started at noon.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is a great structure. It
Yeah,
is.
everything about that place is awesome.
Yeah, the parking. You just park on the second floor. You can walk to the poker room in like a minute and a half.
Yep, I would go out on my breaks. I would have my food in the
too.
in the van, and you could get out and grab a bite to eat and get back in with time to spare on the breaks. It's perfect.
Yep, yeah. I had my cooler out there with my smoothies, just like I always do, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Well, is it all right? We move on to the strategy section, Carlos.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
let me say this because
Yeah.
I've been asked this like 35 times now from that article. No, I did not win the tournament that I didn't look at my cards in. I ended up making it to the 5,100 level and like shoving like 2 bigs with Queen Jack and losing to Jack 10. But yeah, everybody always, the whole point of this is to get more in touch with the aspects of poker that we're not used to talking about. Like we're used to talking about what our hand is. We're used to talking about whether or not we win. We don't talk so much about how the other guys are playing or what adjustments we can do to take advantage of them. So that's kind of what I want to focus on when I played the tournament, when I looking at my cards. But when I talk about it, everybody want to know the results. And I just roll my eyes. I was like, results don't matter. Just make good decisions. But for those people out there who are dying to know, no, I did not pull a net overstart and win. Did not even cash. But I made it. I made it like maybe like 7 levels, which that was
impressive.
pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. 7 levels, starting with only 80 bigs. That's
Right.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with the strategy section. You want to make final tables? Join Tournament Poker Edge. It's in the name. It gives you an edge in tournaments. Watch fun instructional videos and learn from the pros. They have videos of member hand history reviews, tournament strategy and theory, and even stick it to the man with KB and Mark. Go through the free videos, check them out, there's hours of them. When you join the club, you'll get access to almost 2,000 videos. It's a lot of fun, and we all just get together and form groups and talk poker tournaments. When you join, save yourself some cash. Use the code HUP month, HUP quarter, or HUP year. Study and learn with other people that are just like you and me. It'll be the best thing you've ever done for your tournament game. I guarantee it. Okay. Did you have any hands, Carlos? Maybe some from today? I've got a couple here, or we can, if you got some, we could do that.
Nah, I looked. The ones I played today and also the last couple of sessions I played online, nothing too interesting.
Okay. All right. Okay. I got two hands here. Both are from the final table of the win tournament we've been talking so fondly of. We're down to 9-handed. The top, let me think, the top 8 pay. And so this was kind of an interesting dynamic because I never pay the bubble. I never adjust the prize structure unless by some act of God someone wants to make it heavier up top. I would go for that, but it's just never happened. I just never pay the bubble. But this time was a little bit different. And the reason it was different was because we're down to 9-handed, the top 8 pay, and then somebody, like they always do, they mentioned, I'd be down to pay the bubble if we just take the money from first place. And I'm thinking, I would never do that. You're punishing the best player.
Right.
If everyone wanted to take it out of their pocket, I would be more inclined to do that. But the kicker to this was, out of the 9 people, 5 of them could not wait to start drinking until they got in, but they wouldn't do it until they got into the money. So, if everyone pulls $20 out of their pocket, including me, then we get 5 players to instantly start drinking. So I went for it. I pulled out a 20 just as quick as I could, and within 45 seconds, 5 people were ordering drinks, and we were on and we were in the money. So we're 9-handed, and under the gun 1, he's a guy, I'm in the big blind, and he's 2 to my left. He's the chip leader at the table. Everyone had just gotten their drinks. We're just getting settled down into the final table. I'm about the second stack. There's like me and one other guy that are tied between second and third in stacks. I can't tell who has more. But so UTG 1 makes it 8,000, and the levels are 2,000, 4,000 with a 500 ante. He makes it 8,000. It folds around to us in the big blind, and we look down at 2 aces. What are you thinking here? We've got 40 big blinds effective, so we've got 160K, and he's got about 250. So he's got us covered. His image, I've been playing with him for a while, so his image is he's moderately loose. He's been playing the big stack pretty effectively. I mean, he's opening just a skosh more than he really should. You know what I mean? Like, he knows, he is aware that he's the big stack and that he wants to, that he should be opening a little bit more often than he should, and he is. That's kind of his image. Very relaxed.
Yeah, I'm definitely 3-betting here, mainly because I don't expect him to back down, given that he is the chip leader, especially if he's opening from EP. Maybe his range is a little bit stronger than normal. So I'm definitely starting with a 3-bet for sure.
Okay. Now, yeah, I thought the same thing too. It when it folded to me, I thought, you know what? I know he could be pretty wide here. And I could almost see an argument for calling, but the kicker is you're going to be out of position for the rest of the hand. I'd much rather do that if I'm going to be in position. But yeah, I won a 3-bet. What's your sizing look like? He made it 8K, which is 2x in raise.
We have 40 bigs, but Does he have like 50, 60, 100, like ballpark?
He's got 250K. So what's that work out to? I
It's
think
like
so.
60, a little bit
55,
over
60,
Yeah.
62.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably three bet to like 25, I guess. Since this is live, if this is online, I would do 24. But
Okay.
I'm guessing I would just put in like 25K in chips.
Okay. All right. That's exactly what I did. I
Mm-hmm.
raised it to 25K. And he hemmed and hawed, and then he folded ace queen suited face up.
Yeah, good for him. There's very few people capable of doing that.
Okay. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So I was thinking back. I'm like, should I have made it 18K? Like what? What am I missing? That
No,
was the hand that should have paid me off.
yeah, you could definitely go smaller, just exploitably if you want to, but I generally don't do that too much pre-flop. So yeah, and I guess they also depends somewhat on the dynamic that the two of you have had with each other coming into this hand. But if there was no big reason for him to think you're strong there, pretty much always, then yeah, I'm three betting to 25K here also.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my thought was, well, when I saw his hand, I just about shit a purple Twinkie. I'm like, okay, that should have paid me off. What the heck?
At least he'll flop, you know.
Yeah, at least call. I did not see him folding there, but he was like truly tormented. So that's when I was like, oh, he's got like Jack 10 here every time, you know?
Yeah.
When he folds ace queen suited, I'm all, huh. It was even spades.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
Supposed to
don't.
play spades, buddy.
Yeah. I'm not changing my play whatsoever. If I happen to run into the 1 or 2% of guys that can fold that hand, then I'll just crush the other 98%. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. I had to run that one by you because I was like, maybe I'm totally missing something here. I don't know.
Was this one of the? They have the dailies that are 10K guaranteed, and then they do 25K on Saturdays, and then the rest of the week there's no guarantee. So was this one of the ones that had a guarantee, or no?
No guarantee. No. No.
Okay.
First place was 3,100. There was 71 people. But no guarantee. No guarantee.
Okay. So yeah, this is probably a softer feel. So yeah, if this was like the 25K one where you get some pretty big name pros that'll play it, maybe the average player at the final table there is more capable of making this fold. But just like on a random Tuesday night, I'm not expecting anybody to make this fold. So I think you played it perfect.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If he was a pro, I'd be surprised. I really don't think he is. I think he was just a recreational player that was, had been there before and he was playing decent.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Another hand from the same tournament. A couple people got knocked out. We're down to 7. And we're in the small blind for this one. So blind levels are 3,000, 6,000 with a 500 ante. Total pot before we see a flop is 12,500. Button opens, and this is an interesting dynamic because I came and sat at her table, and I sat to her left.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Steve. Let me interrupt you. This was like last week.
Yeah, this was I don't know, a few days ago.
Did they not do the big blind ante? Because the last couple of times I played there. Oh, but this was part of a series. I guess they don't do this for the dailies. Only the big blind plays the ante. And
Huh.
so like in this case, say you have a and usually the ante is the same as the big blind, I believe. So here you would pay um the 6K for the big blind, and then you would put in another 6K for the ante, and nobody else would pay an ante. And then that would just kind of like travel around the table. So on average, everybody pays, their portion of the ante, but it just saves time, because you're not collecting like small chips the whole time.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
I thought they did this for all their tournaments, but I guess they only do it for all of the tournaments that are part of a series, not the daily.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
No, I just looked right now, and it was 2 days ago, the 22nd. So, um, yeah,
okay.
Thursday.
I was a little bit confused when you said the 500 for the ante. So this is okay. I'm back on track with you now. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I didn't know they did. I've never played a tournament like that, but that's pretty brilliant. It would save a lot of time instead of having to continually ask the same guy who keeps forgetting his ante because he's on his phone the
Yes.
whole time. Yeah.
They do so many things right at the win, and that's just another one. Like they're one of the first places I've seen that adopt that for all tournaments. I've seen it for like big buy-in tournaments. I think the first time I saw it was I was watching on Poker Go for that Super High Roller Bowl, and they did it for that. And people love it so much that Wynn decided, like, hey, let's do it for the $400 tournaments as well. But I guess it hasn't trickled down to the dailies yet. But one day it will.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah. I'd like to play that. I've never I've never even heard of that until now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we okay. So um, the button opens, and so at 3K, 6K, she opens to 15K. I sat down next to her, the hand or the table before the final,
Mm-hmm.
and she was on my right. We'd been talking a little bit. I got the impression right away that she was a competent player and that she might even be a pro. And yeah, we had a neat little conversation, a dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
little flirty. So I'm sitting now. She's in seat, what would that be? Seat 9, and I'm sitting in seat 1.
Man, that's
So we're
strong.
basically
That's strong to flirt across the dealer. That is definitely some what's it called? The pickup artist. That's that's got to be in the sequel. The next book
well,
tells you how to flirt
this
across people.
well, the flirty dynamic happened when she was in the previous table when she was in seat 8 and I was in seat 9.
Oh, okay,
A little.
okay.
Well, the example I'm thinking of is her. A guy walked up and talked to her. They had obviously come together, and then
Mhm.
said something. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to go play cash," and then he left. And then I said, "Oh, is that your boyfriend?" And she's, "Oh, no, that's my nephew." And then I said, "Oh, okay, so I still have a shot then." And then
Right,
she
right.
laughed, like
There
that.
you go. There
Just
you
kind of
go.
a little banter.
Right, right.
Okay, so now fast forward to the final table. We're seven-handed, 3,000, 6,000. I'm in seat 1. She's in seat 9 on the button. She's white. She's appears in her mid-30s and competent, possibly a pro. Raises 15K at 3K, 6K, and we're in the small blind with Ace Queen offsuit with 180K, 30 bigs behind.
All right. So this competent player on the button opens to 15K, and we're sitting here with 180K in the small blind with Ace Queen offsuit.
Yes, and a little bit of information here. The guy to my left, he's a. We played at the table before. He's real dynamic and stuff, and I can read his pre-actions like a book, and I know he's folding. He's already looked at his hands, and I can't tell you exactly what he did, but I knew he was folding. So we're going to be heads up.
Okay. When I look at this spot with Ace Queen, Ace King, any type of like hand in that ballpark, a really good offsuit Broadway hand. I can't tell you how many times I 3-bet this hand to a size where you can't see me doing air quotes here, where they can't flat. Like I'm putting them to a shove or fold decision, and they find a way to flat anyway.
Yes.
And those spots are like the devil. And so, honestly, man, even with 30 bigs here, I would just shove. We're at a final table. I'm ahead of her range for sure. I'm happy with my stack. I don't mind just taking down this mediocre pot pre-flop. Pick up like 5 bigs here, something like that. I'm also it's like I'm 100% happy taking this down pre-flop. I know it's not optimal, but here's the thing. I know if I shove here, I'm not making a mistake. Whereas if I 3-bet and this person calls me, I'm very likely to make a mistake in that bloated pot, out of position with an offsuit hand. I'm more likely to just do a normal size 3-bet or maybe even flat if I have ace queen suited or ace king suited. But these offsuit hands, I just want to put it in. Part of the reason is when you 3-bet, this is what they put you on. Like you have ace king, you 3-bet, like most of these guys put you on ace king anyway. And I hate to have the hand that they always put me on. Yeah. So I don't know. I saw a tweet from Daryl recently, Daryl Jace. And I think he says he likes just over shoving these hands too.
Okay.
That's what I would do. It's not optimal, but it just makes life easier, and I just want to like be done with this hand and move on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see. I've never thought of shoving 30 bigs in this spot before. Like 20 to 25, I could certainly see myself doing that, but I felt like this was too much. But you got a good point. Yeah, there are those spots all the time where you go and raise, and you're like, well, they have to shove it in here, and then they call, and you're like, okay, our stack to pot ratio is 1-to-1 right now. I guess I could never fold, and I have ace high.
Right. So like I don't know how to play those spots, and like you know, you give me like an 8-7-6 board with 2 of a flush draw out there. I feel like I'm check folding too much in those spots where. Usually when I 3-bet this hand and they call me, I'm kicking myself, asking myself why I didn't just shove pre. And so I've started avoiding that by just shoving pre every time.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll call you at worse. Other times they'll fold better. I'm not upset if pocket sixes finds a fold here. I'm loving life. Yeah. I'm not upset if king jack suited finds a fold.
Yeah. Winning 5 bigs from the small blind with ace queen offsuit is a good result.
Yes.
And if you could do that every time you got that hand in that spot, you'd be printing money.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I would do.
Okay. Well, that's pretty damn good advice. I chose to flat, and the reason I chose to flat was because her and I had a little bit of that dynamic that I thought I might be able to use somehow during the course of the hand to either get in an extra value bet or maybe get a check on one of the streets that I otherwise may not have been able to,
Right.
I'm probably wrong. She probably would have somehow used that to own me, but that was my thinking at the time. I thought about 3-betting, and I thought, you know what? I think so. For me at the time, shoving here wasn't an option, but I think you've convinced me of that, and I'm going to start taking spots like that in the future. But
honestly, I'd much rather flat it than 3-bet it. So your line would be my second option, and I think both of us are off base from like a good player would always 3-bet less than all in here. I feel like if you were playing like GTO or optimal, that's what you would do, but I don't know. Doing that gets you in tough spots that a GTO player knows how to navigate, but I don't, so I avoid it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I thought about three betting to like 45, 50.
Mm-hmm.
Closer to 45 because I know the guy to my left is already folding. But I ended up flatting, knowing that we're going to go heads up. If it looked like he was going to play, then I'd be more likely to three bet.
Right.
But he folded. So we go to the flop heads up. There's 39,500. You know what? I'm just going to call it 40K. There's 40K in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And with ace queen offsuit and the small blind against the button, we get a flop of Jack 6 7 rainbow.
Aren't you glad you didn't three bet? Yeah. This is the nightmare flop that I don't want to be dealing with. Do you have her covered?
We got to both be within like 10K or something because I can't tell who's got more.
Okay.
So ace queen off, Jack 7 6 rainbow. What are you thinking here?
Probably check calling any reasonable size bet.
Okay. I think the same. I check, and she pretty quickly checks behind.
Okay.
So with 40K in the pot, we go to the turn, and the turn is a 9, completing the rainbow. So we've got Jack 9 7 6 rainbow. Any 8 now is open ended. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm probably check folding.
Okay. I check as well. Okay.
Yeah, I think when she checks back, she's gonna have a lot of showdown value, 10s, 9s, 8s. I imagine she would bet a jack, except for maybe like Jack 10, Jack 9. She doesn't bet. So I'm not seeing a ton of give ups on this board from most players. So if I'm at this point, I think when she checks back, she's doing it with the intention of calling. So I think if you wanted to bet your hand here, you need to be prepared to bet big on turn and river to try to get her off of something like 10s. But honestly, I'm just not aggressive enough on turns and rivers. So I don't mind check giving up at this point. I'm actually kind of relieved. I'm kind of relieved to only lose like a little bit in this hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I check, and into 40K she bets 30. And at this point, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I somehow convinced myself that my ace high is probably good. I told myself that she's got to have an 8. But now, especially as I'm verbalizing this on the air, it's kind of embarrassing. I don't know what 8s I thought she had that didn't already beat me, because most of her 8s are at least, they'd be one pair, or they're straight, with 8,
Right.
10. The only 8 that I think would make sense that I'm beating is ace 8, which she would raise on the button, and that would make sense for her to bet now that she's open-ended. But with no flush draw out there, like, what draw is she betting? Queen 10 now? That Queen 10 would make sense, but that's about it. Everything else has a pair or better,
Right.
But, is she betting ace 10 here as a bluff? I don't think so.
Yeah, and in my experience, if somebody is bluffing here, they're gonna bluff again on the river. So if you can't call 2 streets, you might as well not even call the one with a hand this week.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that either if she doesn't have a pair and she bets here, she's probably betting with a hand that has a decent shot at making a pair. And if she hits that pair, then she'll probably check it back. But if she's betting something like, I don't know, Queen 8 here and the river is a brick, she's probably going to bet it again. Like, these people will convince themselves like, I can't win by checking. And they're just going to bet twice. So unless you have a bluff catcher that can call two streets, or at least be good when you, sometimes if it goes check, like for example, if you're sitting here with, I don't know, a 9 in your hand, that's a hand I'm willing to bluff catch with here. And then if she bets again on a turn, I can let that go. But I'm not calling twice with ace high, and I don't expect it to go check on the river. So I'm not even going to call with it the one time, even if I am ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I explained, somehow I convinced myself I could be good here. I guess that goes for about 4 of her combinations. But right. I call, and then the river is a 5. So the final board is Jack, 9, 7, 6, 5. Any 8 makes a straight. Nothing to do here. We check. I don't think. Would you ever bet this river if somehow you found a call on the turn?
No.
Yeah. She's got more 8s than we do, calling out of the small blind.
Right.
Okay. All right. I check. She quickly checks behind and flips over her hand, and she has pocket 6s for a set. So, I talked to her later about this, and you even mentioned the hand earlier, Carlos. You're like, if she just has 6s here, she's folding. And I asked her about that afterwards. I said, if I 3-bet there, what are you doing? And she's like, no, with that dynamic and the stack sizes, I got to fold. I'm like, okay, all right. So
now this is versus just a regular size 3-bet.
That's what I asked her about. I said, if I 3-bet to like 45, what do you do? And she says, I fold. I didn't ask her about the shove, though. I didn't even think of that as an option before.
Right. I would probably put her in, I'll say 20%, 30% of players that will fold this to a 3-bet. You got some who are recreational players. They just want to see if they can hit a flop. They don't really understand set odds. They just know they have a pair. Yeah. So they're going to call even if they're not getting the right price. And then you have some players that are good enough to 4-bet shove it. But rarely do you, I'm not going to say it's not super rare. So I'll say like, I can see 20, 30% of the player pool making a fold there with 6s if you just make it like 50K or 40 or 45, whatever. So I believe her. I believe her, especially since you say that she's competent, but still that leaves like 70% of people there that are going to call, and now they flop this set and we're going to feel obligated to c-bet. We c-bet, they shove on us, and now we don't know, like, okay, is my ace high good here? Or, yeah, it's still a horrible spot against most players in this spot, even though 3-betting would have been the right play against this player specifically.
Yeah. I like that. Well, thank you, Carlos.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to go back through. I like to kind of like relive the hand after you reveal the results. So flop, she didn't bet the flop. Is that right?
She didn't bet the flop. She checked pretty quickly. Interesting, when she raised the button, I paused in the small blind, and then that's when I saw the guy to my left make a move. As I'm revisualizing it here, I think he started to fold his cards before the action was on him. Something like that. I knew he was out. And then that's when I said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And then tried to like get some kind of reaction out of her. Mm-hmm. And that's when she could tell that I was debating on a 3-bet, and she looked a little, I don't know, uncomfortable. That was the move. But I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. What were you talking about?
No, she checked it back on the flop.
Yeah, she checked pretty quickly too. There was no like debate about betting. Although I did take a few seconds before I checked, so she probably had the time to think during them, and she just checked right behind. And then on the turn, when I checked, that's when she took a second, and then she bet out 30K into 40.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So she might have pulled a Barton on you, like because I think I'm betting with bottom set for sure in this spot against the vast majority of the players, getting value from like all kinds of stuff on a board like this. But maybe she also noticed that. Maybe she noticed that you noticed that she looked nervous, and she was basically checking back there, hoping that you would try to bluff her off whatever weak hand she kind of gave off the vibe that she had on that she had there. So maybe she was also trying to take advantage of this flirty dynamic you guys had.
Maybe.
Or maybe she's trying to take advantage of the fact that you were trying to take advantage of it. Yeah.
I leveled myself.
Right.
Yeah.
But at least you didn't lose your stack, because that's probably what I would have done. If I thought she was weak, I'm probably betting big on the turn and big on the river, and she would have stacked me basically. So good on her.
Yeah. But right on. Well, thank you for coming on, Carlos. Are you still doing coaching?
I am. Yes.
Over at mediocrepokercoaching.com.
That is correct.
Right on. Excellent. $50 an hour. And you mentioned streaming, so you still are doing Twitch.
Yep. Basically, because I've been traveling so much the past couple of months, I haven't been doing it throughout the month, mainly because it's hard to find a decent internet connection when I'm on the road. But like I said, I'll be back in the Laughlin area next week, and I'll try to bang out a couple of streams before the end of the month.
Awesome. Yep. Right on. So you guys can follow him on Twitter at hiphop101trivia. And if you want to get all his links and everything, you can go to headsuppoker.poker, click on the Circle of Trust, and Carlos Welch will be there with all his links. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to use your code over at 64spades. Use HUPOKER in all caps. You'll get your rake back, and I will see you at the tables. Thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
One of the things that I found, if I can pass this on to you, one of the things that I found when I was a young man, this cost me about 10 years of life, by the way, not 10 years so much, but 10 years in that I thought that you had to have good grades in school in order to be successful. And then later I thought that you had to have a university education in order to be successful. And then later I thought that successful people are people who are somehow better than you and I. They somehow have unique talents, that somehow the gods have descended from Olympus and touched them on the heads. But one of the things that I found is that nobody is better than you or I. When you see men or women accomplishing great things, they're not better than you and I. They're not different from you or I. They're just doing things in a different way. You look at a person you went to school with who's now doing surgery as a doctor. The person's the same person, except that they've learned how to do surgery. You look at a person who you went to school with who is now an outstanding success in a particular field. All they've done is learned how to be a success in that field. And consistency. There's a law of accumulation in the universe, if I can pass this on. A law of accumulation that says that even though you do 100 things or 1,000 things that you don't see, eventually they accumulate and they gather a force of their own. That every single great accomplishment in life is the result of thousands of minor accomplishments that nobody ever sees. One of the people on the program, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, who had become successful as a singer, they said, "Isn't it wonderful that you've become so successful as a singer?" She said, "Yes, it's wonderful." She said, "But when I'm up on stage in Las Vegas and I'm making $50,000 a week or whatever it happens to be," she says, "nobody sees the 16 years that I spent traveling around, living in a van, singing in cheap honky-tonks where people throw up on your piano and get drunk on the floor in front of you. Nobody sees the 16 years of living on the road, living at an average of less than $5,000 a year. What they see is the person up there on the stage. But every single great success was at one time a failure. And they failed and failed and failed and failed over and over again. And all great successes are a story of failure, 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 failure. Outstanding success. Boy, ain't he lucky. Isn't that right? Boy, he was lucky. He sure had the right connection.